Hey guys, it's Mr. Bergman here. Hoping you guys are having a great day, great morning, whenever you're watching this. But this is your third lesson for distance learning, and it's on solving inequalities. So far we went through adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing equations, and I'm hoping those are going okay. And I've had a few questions, and I've got a chance to answer those. But if you have any questions now or moving forward, please don't hesitate to ask. I know using the multiplication and division, looking at the inverse operations there can get a little tricky there sometimes, but don't hesitate to ask, just like I talked about before. So we're going to continue with the inverse or using the opposite operations here. But before we do so, there's a couple things we got to talk about and just review. And this is like elementary review, if you will. This sign right here, greater than. So when it's pointed this direction, it's going to be a greater than sign. Make sure that you know that that is called the greater than sign. Um, and all this is saying is 10 is greater than 3. And then we move on to the less than sign. And that is 2 is less than 6. And if you guys remember, we used to do, I'm sure your elementary teachers used to talk about how this is an alligator. Okay. Alligator eats the bigger one always, right? But something that it shouldn't be new, it's just review again, but if there's a line underneath these are greater than or equal to. Okay? Or equal to. And this would be less than or equal to as well. So what is that saying? Well, that's saying 10 is greater than or equal to 3, which is not true. It's just an example. But 2 is greater than or equal to 6. Okay? So a good example of this would be 10 is greater than or equal to 3 plus x. Okay, 3 plus x. That's telling us that x can be a 7 because this can be equal, or anything lower than a 7. Okay. Anyways, that's not what this lesson is about. Just a quick example. Don't mean to confuse you, but the main thing is this is the greater than sign or equal, and this is the less than sign or equal to. Okay. So moving on, this is going to be a quick lesson here. Moving on here, I'm just going to make sure you guys can see the problem I'm working on here. I have a plus 4, which is less than 9. Okay. And how do I solve that? Well, I do the exact same thing that we have been doing the whole time, and that is using your inverse operation. So you guys probably saw me use my t. I use my t because that helps. That has helped other students in the past. Just know that we're supposed to balance both of these. I know it's kind of hard to see on the screen, so I'll go on this. I know there's a glare right there. But again, this is a plus 4 is less than 9. I want to get this variable by itself. So to do that, I subtract 4 on both sides. Okay. Doing so gives me this brings down right here. These cancel, and I get an a is less than 5. Now you're probably wondering, what does a less than 5 mean? That means a can be anything that is below 5. So it can be 4, it can be 3, it can be 2, it can be 1, it can be 0, it can be -1, and so on. Okay, as long as it's lower than 5. And that's what a variable is. That's when we use variables and we talk about how it can represent any number there. Okay, moving forward. Well, before we do, notice how that's the same exact stuff that we practiced last week there. Okay, just doing the opposite, just to get this variable alone on one side of the equation by itself. Okay, moving forward, this is the second example I got for you here. I have d plus 13 is greater than or equal to 22. Okay, so notice there's an equal sign here, or equal to sign here. So doing this, we have d plus 13. So the opposite operation here would be minus 13. Okay, doing so cancels these, equals 0. And we have d. This greater than or equal to sign gets brought down here. And 22 minus 13 would be, you're right, 9. Okay, So looking at this, your variable can be greater than 9 or it can be equal to 9. What is that telling us? Well, it can be 9 because it can be equal to, it can be 10 because it can be greater, 11, and it can go all the way into basically to infinity. Okay, it can be a million if you wanted to. Other than that, guys, same process this week. Hey, this is going to be kind of weird because I'm kind of putting a video within a video, so it probably is cutting off kind of weird. But I did forget. We got to do a division and a multiplication example here too. Okay, so with this, we have 6 divided by 2 is less than 6. Okay, it's less than 6. So on this, same exact operations, okay, or inverse operations here. So to do that, we have over 2. And remember, last lesson we talked about how in a variable, there can be a 1 in front of the variable. So on this, we would multiply by 2 over 1. What does that do? That cancels this, it cancels this, and we have a g over 1, which is the same as saying g. I bring this back down, and then on this side, we haven't done anything on this side yet. So we times this by 2 over 1, which is the same as timesing it by 2, and we get 12. G is less than 12, okay? So G can be 11 or anything below that, okay? I went through that kind of fast, but that's because our last lesson, last week on Thursday, did talk about your inverse fractions here, okay? And then the next one is our multiplication one, okay? I hate these. We have these glares up here. I apologize. I know there's a glare like right there. This is 25t is less than or equal to 100. So we're multiplying here. So we're going to divide by 25, divide by 25, okay? Balance your equation. And when you divide by 25, these cancel. And you get your variable by itself, which is t, and you have 100 divided by 25, which is 4, okay? So t can be less than or equal to 4, which means it can be 4, it can be 3, it can be 2, it can be 1, and so on and so forth, okay? All right, that should be it. And same process for today. These 2 practice problems are your lesson, obviously, but moving forward, you have some problems on a Google form that I have for you. I'm hoping those are going okay. And the reason I'm doing those is because I can see who's going back and fixing some, who's having problems on what. And it's just easier for me to see that side. So that's why I'm doing that. Hopefully it makes sense when I'm going through that. And I haven't had too many questions on how to access a Google form. So it seems like it's going okay. But again, you know where to reach me. And I hope you guys have a great day. See ya.